Hi.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Beth.
I'm Beth Schulstad-Walter, and I'm from Denver, and I just got certified as a facilitator.
Great. Thanks, Beth. How about Jim next?
Jim Cole, and I'm sitting at home in Westminster, and I'm a rookie.
Great. Glad to have you, Jim.
I'm also dyslexic, which makes it difficult to get logged in with all those numbers in a row.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay, how about Aurelio?
Hi, I'm Aurelio Avalos, and I'm from Montebello, and I am with home.
Great. Thanks, Aurelio. And then I have a 303-913-0071 number.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah. Would you
Hi,
like to?
sorry, this is Claire. Thanks, Patty. This is Claire. I was just certified as a FLTI coach, and I'm in Lakewood.
Oh, great. Thanks, Claire, for joining us. And how about 720-363-8493?
Hey, that's me. So this is Angel Smith. I am also a newly certified facilitator, and I'm in Denver.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Angel. And it looks like, is it Joni that's on the phone?
There you go, Mom.
Sometimes the names that come up on the numbers are right. Is that you, Joni? Maybe not.
How to unmute?
They were on mute. It is.
Okay. So why don't we start with, how about Jennifer? Can you introduce yourself, Jennifer?
Yeah, I was trying to be patient. Jennifer Jaramillo with Morgan County Family Center. I'm the site coordinator over here in Morgan County.
Great. Thanks for joining, Jennifer. How about you, Lauren? Oh, you're on mute, Lauren. There you go.
Hi, my name's Lauren. I will new facilitator in Fort Morgan, working with Jennifer.
Great. And I see Stacy.
Hi, this is Stacy. I'm also newly certified from Saguache.
Great. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you.
And Sherry, you're next in my order, so I'm just going in my order.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Sherry. I'm Larimer County, and I'm newly certified here.
Great. Welcome, Sherry. And Lisa, thumbs up for you to go next.
I was giving Sherry a thumbs up. I'm Lisa. I'm from Larimer County. I work as a site coordinator, and I just am newly certified as a phase 2.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Lisa. And then I see a pink screen, and it says LJARE.
Hi, Patty. This is Oralia. This is not my computer. That's why it has that name, but this is Oralia.
Oh, great. Thanks for joining us, Aurelia.
Thank you.
And is that Trish I see?
It's me. I don't see me. Oh, there I am. Guess I should have combed my hair. Hi, all.
Hey, Trish. Thanks for joining us.
Oh.
And did
I
you
know I don't think my.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to say neither of my facilitators can be on the line, so I told them I would tune in and get instructions for them.
Great. And just so everybody knows, we'll be recording this and then posting it on the Facilitator Google Drive. So anybody who's not able to join us, or if you ever want to go back to this video, you'll be able to do that. And then it looks like—
One last one.
Go for it.
This is Daryl. Daryl Mullen in Lafayette, just recently certified as a facilitator. And want to say hi to everybody.
Great. Thanks for saying hi, Daryl, and thanks for joining us. And I see, is it Henry? Looks like Henry's with us as well. Hey, Henry.
Hey. Hello, this is Henry. Denver. How's everyone?
Great.
Good. Great. It was great to have you, Henry. So has anybody not said hello yet? Okay. Okay, it looks like we have one more person who just joined us. Do you want to just let us know who you are and where you're calling from?
Hi, this is Isabel from Summit County.
Oh, great. Welcome, Isabel.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on the call. So welcome, everybody. We're glad to have everybody join us. And really, our goal for this meeting is to provide some context for those of you who are new to FLTI and facilitating and being a recent credentialed facilitator for FLTI. We also, throughout the year, like to provide opportunities to create a facilitator community. This is your chance. You know, I almost think we have all four corners of the state covered in this call today. This is your chance. These are, you know, some of you have been facilitating for a long time. Some of you have yet to facilitate an FLTI class. So this is your opportunity to connect with other people and be a resource for each other. And just like, you know, we know that our FLTI participants come to us as leaders already, we also know that you come as facilitators, whether you have several years experience or this is your first year, you all bring gifts to the table. And so this is a chance for us to have a collective conversation and knowing that, you know, there are some things that, you know, we will tell you that, you know, these are things that you have to do as a facilitator, but most of the time it's about conversations, it's about practice, and it's about sharing resources. And that's the last thing, you know, our goal for this meeting is really to give an opportunity to share resources that will help you as you facilitate. And in addition to that, just let you know about coming opportunities and have an opportunity towards the end of our call to answer your individual questions. So as we go throughout the meeting today, we are looking at, this will be for an hour, so we hope to wrap it up at 6:30. And then after 6:30, if you wanted to stay on and just had some individual questions that you wanted to talk to us about, where Heather and I are happy to stay on, or maybe I shouldn't talk for Heather. I'm happy to, you know, we're here to answer your questions. We're here to be a resource for you. So let's just dive right in with that. So in order to provide you all some context, oh, I see Jenny from our Boulder County class. Sister Carmen has joined us. Welcome, Jenny.
Oh, and one more number.
Oh, did we get one more number?
Yeah, 817.
Hi, this is Taylor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who is it?
This is Taylor.
Oh,
Jenny.
Hey, Taylor. Welcome, welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, so all of you should have, who attended our September facilitator training, should have received a letter, an email that lets you know whether or not you were credentialed as a facilitator. And so one of the first things I wanted to just give you some context around, what does that mean when you get that letter that says, hey, you've been credentialed as a facilitator? What that means is that you are credentialed and are able to facilitate the FLTI curriculum. What that does not mean is that you're guaranteed to facilitate FLTI. In the letter, we mentioned that you know, a team makeup in a local community is really specific to the needs of the community. And so sometimes, while you've been credentialed and you're very valuable to your community, and you know your FLTI site, your local site will want you to be involved, sometimes because there's a limited number of facilitators you can use, sometimes that team might have to say, hey, you know, we're not able to have you facilitate this year, but we would love you to join us on our civic design team. We would love you to be a part and visit the class and be a resource to the class, but we're hoping that maybe in the future, maybe next year, you'll be a facilitator for our site. So that's always something that can be kind of confusing for some people, or that we get a lot of questions about. And so I just wanted to clarify that for some of you, you may not facilitate. It really is up to that local site to choose to make the selections that are appropriate for their site. And then but what I would encourage you is, if you're not currently facilitating and you're not part of a team but would like to, please do reach out to a local site coordinator. Please do reach out to Heather and I and let us know, hey, you know, I'm not able to facilitate at this site, but I'd be willing to travel X amount of miles to help out a different site, so that we know that you are interested in facilitating, and we'll help get the word out that you're available for an FLTI class. And then once sites make their selections on who will be their facilitator, typically what happens is they will have you sign a memorandum of understanding. And that is a requirement that comes down from our national partners, because there are certain requirements that we need to meet as a state in order to make sure that we can continue using that national curriculum. So any questions about that process of joining an FLTI team? Great. So then let's talk about some of the things that, you know, FLTI facilitators just need to be aware of. And these are some of the things that we brought up during the training, but we also know that that was 3 long days, and that maybe you didn't hear these parts. Especially if you're like me, sometimes I hear things and while they were said, I might not remember them. So sometimes I need just reminders about things. So one of the things to make sure you're aware of is that the FLTI curriculum is copyrighted. It's not meant to be split up and activities taken out of the curriculum. We know that sometimes as facilitators you might be like, oh, you know what? I know that there's this activity we do in FLTI that would really help this situation. So I'm going to do this with this group. And, you know, nobody's policing that. Nobody's, you know, looking for you to do that. You're not going to, you know, you're not going to get a letter from an attorney. But one of the things, we have a partnership with our national partners. This curriculum is copyrighted. And that promise that we have with our national partners is not to take that curriculum and take pieces of it and adapt it for different curriculum. And one of the ways that we can keep our FLTI curriculum evidence-based, so which is a big deal to be able to say this is evidence-based curriculum, is to make sure that we're following the curriculum and that we're not breaking it up into pieces, and to making sure we're respecting those copyright laws that we have with our national partners. In addition to that, other things to be aware of is that once you are facilitating with a site, you'll receive a facilitator binder with the curriculum in it. And you should know that with that binder, typically that binder is supposed to stay with the site, not leave with the facilitator. So you will most likely, as a facilitator, write on the curriculum, you know, you might use it to facilitate during that session, but technically that binder is owned by the site, not by the facilitator. And then just other things that I would recommend, and maybe, you know, since we have you on the phone, Isabel, I might put this question to you and put you on the spot a little bit. So thanks for joining. But
No problem.
so actually, why don't we start with you first, and then I'll talk about some other things. So one of the biggest questions that we often get from facilitators who are getting ready to facilitate their first classes, where do I start? What do I do? How can I dive into this curriculum, and where do I start? So Isabel, I'm curious, can you talk about where you started, after taking the training that helped you get ready for your first class?
I think definitely read through the first week and the second week, just so that you're aware of what's coming and what you're going to do the first week and what's coming ahead, because sometimes there's some activities that lead on to the next week, so it's good to look ahead at least a week, and really read through the activities. And if you can, even practice the activity, just doing it yourself or doing it with someone else, so that you are ready for the first day. Another thing that was really helpful was that folder that we got, which had a handout with a lot of different strategies for icebreakers and getting people to get to know each other. Those were really helpful, and when we worked with the youth, we realized when we asked them that they really wanted to do those. They really wanted to get to know each other more. And so just as a brain break or as a stretcher or as something that you can do in between the activity, have those handy, because they really do help create that safe environment that you want from the very beginning.
Great. Those are all great suggestions, Isabel. And you know what? One of the things that we can do is we'll send out those icebreaker activities after this call today, and you all can take a look at that. But throughout your time facilitating, you'll see opportunities where, your task as a facilitator is really to make sure you're getting to those weekly objectives. But you might also see that there may be times where the group needs a quick 5-minute break and needs to get to know each other a little better. And those icebreakers that Isabel talked about are quick ways to get people talking and get people connected. So we'll send those out. And another thing that Isabel mentioned that I think is really important is that, working ahead. So the curriculum, the way it works is each session builds on each other. And so you want to be ahead so you can see how you're building for the next week. And one of the expectations that we have of our co-facilitators, so in FLTI, we really are purposeful in asking sites to have co-facilitators for many, many different reasons. But one of the things that is so important, especially your first couple of years and working as a team, is there's an expectation that as a co-facilitator, you're meeting with your other co-facilitator weekly to plan for the week's session. And a lot of facilitators will do that ahead of time. So you may be coming up on session 2, but as your co-facilitation team, you've already talked about session 2, and so you're meeting during session 2 to plan for session 3. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So I would put out the question to our other facilitators who have facilitated before, and our site coordinators who are on the call as well. What other tips do you have on getting started for facilitators?
My opinion is that we need to look for the way that to make the participants finish the whole training, because I think that it's really sad when we have dropouts, because they have a very high potential to do very good things for the community. But I did a comment to you, Patty, that I think that the curriculum is a little obsolete, but it's not that. I think that we need to get updated with the evolution of the families in this time, and let them express how they really feel.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is the best way that we're gonna. Pardon?
No, finish what you were saying, Aurelio. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's just because that I think that if we work along with them, we can do great things with this training.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Aurelio. So retention in your FLTI classes really is all about how facilitators and site coordinators are connecting with participants. And you know, there's definitely areas to improve the FLTI curriculum, but we do know that it's one of the most effective curriculums that are out there right now to get the kind of results and outcomes that you can see for a program like this. And so definitely there's always opportunities, and nationally and statewide, people are, you know, there are opportunities for dialogue about how we can change or improve the curriculum. But what we do know is that when this curriculum is implemented the way it's supposed to be implemented, that it does get huge results for communities. And you can't get those results unless people stay in that class. And that really takes individuals who are facilitators and site coordinators who are really connecting with individuals and talking to people. Simple things like, hey, you know, I noticed that you were missing last week. Is everything okay? We would love to see you next week. Or we're glad you were able to come back. Another really simple way for you as facilitators to make sure that people feel connected and feel like they want to come back is really just sitting down during dinner and eating dinner with your participants. And that's one of the biggest feedback I tend to give to facilitators, is that dinner time is such important time for you as facilitators to be connecting with your participants. And I know what it's like to have a really busy day and you need to get your stuff ready for class, but that connection time with your participants during dinner is super important. What about Trish or Lisa or Taylor? Do you have some feedback or some ideas on for facilitators where they might get started?
Well, I mean, definitely in pre-planning, and as we get planning the retreat and we have phase 1 and phase 2 together, I think it's really important that we maintain good communication between the teams so they know if there's anything going on with a certain participant, difficult sessions, those kind of things. And so along that vein, I would say it's really important not to short yourselves on the debrief session every evening.
Mm-hmm.
That if there's something going on, you know, make sure you make a plan to address it in the next session, you know, over dinner, whatever. And the other really helpful document, because we find we tend to lose participants sometimes. Sorry, there's an echo. Sometimes we lose participants because community projects can be scary. So if you have a plan ahead of time to incorporate community projects with every session, and I know there's, you know, handouts on how to do that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. Several good points, Trish, about that. You know, when you start approaching 10, when people have to do that first presentation, they start getting pretty scared about that first presentation and well, my project's not good enough. I really don't know what I'm going to do. And you tend to see people drop off at that point. So really connecting with people and finding opportunities during the opening to let people talk about their projects and their ideas can really be a great way to keep people coming back.
Can you hear me? This is Tawana.
Hi, Tawana.
Hi there. I like to communicate with the participants in between sessions. And so I like to get their email addresses. So those that are uncomfortable or might be uncomfortable with their projects or uncertain of what they want to do, I can help them flush those ideas out before we get to the next session. And then I also just like to shoot out an email to say hey, or even give them any kind of community resources before the next session. So it doesn't seem like the only time that we're communicating is during the session, during each session, like once a week. And so I would just say if you could make a plan just to touch base or just email participants and connect with them in between the sessions, that's worked out well for me. And I also like to listen to the pre-recordings, because sometimes when the sessions might run too long or we feel like we are short on time, the pre-recordings give you some ideas on what you can cut if you're running short on time. And so you'll be able to plan and what it is that they don't want you to eliminate. So I like to get those types of ideas ahead of time, just in case I might have to utilize that.
That's great. Yeah, and we're gonna make sure that everybody by the end of this call today knows where those resources are. So thanks, Tawana. You're right on track.
Hey, Patty, this is Lisa. I was just going to recommend two things. Always look at the goals of what the next session is. And then while you're looking through the curriculum, just making sure that you are hitting those goals as you're facilitating. But also use your site coordinator, because if you do recognize or hear something, make sure in that debrief you talk about it from a participant, because I found sometimes participants might have barriers that we can help alleviate for them returning. So if you do hear something, whether it's childcare, whether it might be transportation, we had a group come around, one of our participants last year, and offer carpooling with them, things such as that. And so and then talking with your site coordinator, so it doesn't all fall on you, but that your site coordinator can be reaching out in the interim as well. Such as Tawana said, it's really important not just to go week from week, but kind of making some of those just touching base with people throughout the entire sessions, I guess you should say.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. And, I've heard two of you now mention that debrief. So, we expect all of our facilitation teams to meet prior to class and plan for the coming classes each week. But we also nightly after each class expect teams to debrief what happened in the class, what are some things you need to be aware of, and what you might do. Things like that are such important things to take the time for. So thank you for that. As well as, Lisa, that's a great reminder that you're a team. Your site coordinator, your facilitators, you have to work together. And if you're not working together, you're missing out on really building a strong class. And the site coordinators aren't just there to make sure you have dinner and to make sure that you have what you need. They are probably the most knowledgeable about who is in the room, what people need. And so if you're not working with your site coordinator, you're missing out. Plus, they're the ones that when somebody has the flu and just can't get out of bed as a facilitator, they're the ones who are going to fill in for you. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that as a team, you're functioning, you're checking in with each other, you're supporting each other. I know that one of the things that came out of this year's training that was suggested was this idea of before the class starts, maybe doing a team huddle and, checking in, okay, where are we at? Who needs support? What's our goals for tonight? Things like that can happen really quickly right before you get started, but can be really effective ways to make sure you're working as a team. Very good. Anything else from our facilitators or site coordinators who are our seasoned experienced facilitators that wanted to talk about what really helped them or what they found effective?
Hello, this is Oralia from Aurora.
Hi.
And I think one of the things that I believe the first time I took the class, not as a facilitator, but the first phase, is the retreatment. That is such an important thing because that's when you really start building the trust, not only among the participants, but also between the co-facilitators and site coordinator. To me, it was a great, great experience because that connection with the people, show your humanity and go through all those activities. It is super powerful. And that gives you a lot of connection with everybody.
Yeah, great. Great idea, Aurelia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move next to the Google Drive and why that's such an important resource for facilitators and site coordinators.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch to a screen share for those of you that have the screen on your computer, and for those that don't, anytime you want to follow up on this, we can do that one-on-one if that is helpful. So let's see. And do you guys all see the screen there?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So we are in the folder number 2 on the Google Drive for FLTI, which is the Facilitator Curriculum and Resources. And on here, I'll show you just kind of the rundown of the folders, and we'll go in depth a little bit more on some of the things that you might have to hunt a little bit to get the treasure. What we have here with the 2018 facilitator support calls these are supplements on top of the curriculum, like how to facilitate through a difficult conversation or with difficult personalities in the room. And they're organized, I believe, by date, and then also, so there's one here about transitioning to phase 2, and then those difficult conversations and difficult personalities. So they're described as well as dated. And then we have a folder that has all the handouts that you'll be giving working with your participants in the room as you go through the activities. Your curriculum itself, oh, you got a question, Patty?
Yeah, can you just give some general overview of what a Google Drive is so that,
oh, sure.
I know the first time I heard Google Drive, I thought it was this mysterious drive out in the universe that I didn't understand.
So basically, what the Google Drive is a web-based storage system for the files that we all are commonly using at throughout FLTI of Colorado. So while you in your home office might have a public drive that everybody in your work can save to, nobody else can access that. We do have that within CSU, but then there are times when our communities that are not affiliated with FLTI as a CSU entity need to be able to access things like the facilitator curriculum, some of the forms that we have available to site coordinators and that sort of thing. So by putting it into this web-based format in the storage location that is the Google Drive, there will be invites that have been sent out to all of those that are newly credentialed this year, and I just did that before we started this webinar. As a refresh for those that maybe had already received that invite. And then you can also, for a quick and easy reference, if you're really in a hurry and don't have the time to go through the folders and find the tool that you have, sometimes you can shoot a quick email and we can send the link to that, and then you can save that link for easy access in the future. So that's another helpful part of it, is like, I know that we have this document, but what is it called and where is it? And Patty and I are able to help with that as well. Particularly if you were to reach out to us during our designated office hours when we're guaranteed to be available to you all. And then, you know, via email and that sort of thing. So when it's outside of office hours, I would just say that try to allow some time for a response. Are there any questions on what the Google Drive is and how it works? No? Okay. So as I said before, we've got the folder with the previously recorded calls, and these are different from the calls that Tawana referred to a little bit ago, and I'll go into that in just a moment. But in here are all the handouts. So we have them all the way through week 20. We have them all in Spanish. There's phase 1, phase 2. Depending on how you need those divided, those are all available there. The third folder here is the English Facilitator Guide. So this is going to be your actual curriculum, and that's where you have basically your script for how to do a session. And that will have you the breakout for what are the time breakdowns for the different activities, the key points, the learning objectives, that sort of thing. So we have them separated out by phase 1, phase 2, and then a community project guides with the handouts that go with that. And what I want to draw your attention to within the English Facilitator Guide is by each session, you have your Facilitator Guide, which is your script, the handouts again, and then also the retreat planning call. So there'll be a call either in an MP3 format that is only audio, or there will be some in a video format, like a webinar that's been recorded. Sometimes, depending on what the session is, there will be an extra support folder, and it'll just have, like, here we have a voter registration form, and then kind of a what to bring to the retreat. This is primarily for the site coordinator, but sometimes it's helpful as you're working as a team that the site coordinator and the facilitators are all on the same page about that. And if there's, you know, somewhere where a facilitator can jump in and help with that, we've got the drive that leaders and the site coordinators that kind of helps to promote that teamwork. Whoops, let's see here. So we'll go back. So that's the English Facilitator Guide and handouts. Spanish Facilitator Guide is available. We do not have the recordings available in Spanish. I don't know how we'll, if we have plans to go ahead and make that available over time. But that's, right now it's mostly just the written guide. So the Facilitator Guide and the handouts are all through here. And as Patty mentioned earlier, you should have a full binder that will have all of this information together. But if you're in a pinch and you don't have the binder, it's at the site, and you just needed to look through an activity, this is a really good resource for you to be able to just click through, find what you're looking at, you know, and maybe during a lunch break, kind of go through what your lesson later that week is, just to internalize it a little more. We have the youth curriculum on here as well, which that is a separate curriculum. Some sites might have you participating in the adult program, but those sites that are specifically to Gen have a separate and supplemental curriculum that the youth has additional activities that are more age appropriate. So that's where you would find that. The session evaluations are in here. So we have just the, and the thing that's nice about the session evaluations is they're purposely left so that they can be generically used, and they can just write that information in. If you need to look into or if you want to look into a little further as to why we evaluate FLTI, there's an older slideshow on here that kind of looks at that. And then we also have the Spanish form. So all of the evaluation forms are in one place. And then we do have this folder that is the additional facilitator resources, and they're kind of all over. We have a debrief planning call from all sessions, the brief guide that goes with that, different civic skills that are learned, so on and so forth. We have a phase 1 guest speaker guide and a phase 2 guest speaker guide, which is helpful because earlier when Patty was saying, you know, phase 2 facilitators go to phase 1 meetings or sessions and vice versa. This is the phase 1 guest speaker guide and the phase 2 guest speaker guide has a really good pulse on when those would be helpful. So I'm trying to think. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly which one, which session was helpful, but I think it was session 4 that phase 2 facilitators come into.
Heather, it's actually session 5. And so in your curriculum, it does talk about, so for example, during session 5, the phase 2 facilitators will come back. So the class typically hasn't seen the phase 2 facilitators since the retreat. And so they come back at session 5 because that's when people hand in their project forms.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're able to connect. A lot of times, you know, in the curriculum, it suggests that possibly your phase 2 facilitators might facilitate one activity during session 5. Not everybody does it that way. Not every site does it that way. But that's just an opportunity to get participants used to having different facilitators, getting more connected with their phase 2 facilitators so that when the phase 2 facilitators start, they're not so surprised and shocked by totally different facilitators.
Yeah. So there's another, that needs to be cleaned up. But
so we have about 15 minutes left. Is there any questions about the Google Drive or things that you want to mention about the Google Drive?
No, not really.
Well, great. Thank you, Heather, and thank you for all your work on capturing all those resources in the Google Drive. It's a lot of work. Well, great. The final resources that we wanted to talk about and mention just briefly before we open it up to questions and just conversations is really about additional resources, opportunities that you have. So Heather mentioned that we have office hours. So we have office hours from 10 to noon on the second Friday of the month, and on the fourth Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m. And, you know, often we'll get a question, you know, somebody might contact us and say, oh, but this isn't during your office hours. And, you know, the reason why we have office hours is we just want you to know we are there for 2 solid hours waiting by the phone, waiting by the computer to connect with you if you need us. And, you know, don't feel bad about reaching out to us outside of those office hours, but we know that sometimes there's a topic that you really want to go a little deeper in. And so by having those office hours, knowing that that's just dedicated time, you're not pulling us away from anything. You know, this is a resource for you doing the work that you're doing. You're important. Your time is important. The work you're doing is important. And so that's why we have those hours set up. You know, we're pretty good about getting back to you as quick as possible if you send us an email or if you give us a call. But, you know, sometimes we're not able to do it. And so, you know, those office hours are there for you and for site coordinators. So please do reach out to us if you need anything. In addition to that, if you haven't connected with FLTI of Colorado on the Facebook page. If you're on Facebook. If you're not, that's okay. But the FLTI of Colorado Facebook page, there are a lot of resources, a lot of really timely resources. So Aurelio talked about, you know, how do we make this curriculum more relevant for what's going on in our local communities and going on in our state and in our country right now. That resource on Facebook is a great timely resources that you can use to connect to the curriculum, to bring in what's going on, you know, into the evenings events when you're in session. It also often highlights a lot of trainings, additional trainings that you can attend. So many of them are free. Many of them are webinars. And so it would really encourage you, if you are open and already on Facebook, to definitely like the FLTI of Colorado Facebook page in order to get connected to those resources. One of the goals that we have this year is to start a online platform for you all to connect with each other. But, you know, until that happens, that Facebook page is one of your best resources for finding out what's going on and what resources and opportunities are available to you, as well as our FLTI of Colorado website. So we will be sending out a email after this call today, but a couple of things that are coming up that if you would like to participate in, you're more than welcome to, and I would encourage you to do that. First is on October 30th, we have a webinar about recruiting for FLTI. And so I would encourage you all, it's not just a site coordinator's job to recruit for classes, it takes a whole team to recruit. So please join us, and we're gonna have a dialogue about great ways to recruit. Everybody does it a little differently, and everybody is really successful in different ways. So we're gonna talk about that. On November 2nd and 3rd, there is a symposium in Denver, a white privilege symposium. It's highlighted on our Facebook page today, just if you wanted to go there, but we'll send you a link to more information about that white privilege symposium. It looks like the agenda is a pretty lengthy, or not lengthy, there's a lot of really good sessions planned during that symposium. So it is by cost, but if you can afford it, I would encourage you to check that out. In addition to that, on November 26th, our office is going to partner with our partners over at Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, Angel, to offer a webinar about equity and start a dialogue about equity. And several of our trainers will be joining us as well for a panel discussion about equity and where you can get started on your learning or move your learning forward wherever you're at about equity. So I wanted to take the last 10 minutes then to turn it over to you all. What questions do you have for us? Or maybe what topic might you want to talk about?
This is Sherry.
Sherry, can you turn up your volume just a little bit?
Turn up or down?
We could just barely hear you.
Okay. That better? Or no?
A little bit.
Okay. How about if I talk like this?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Hey, I just wanted to say, as far as prepping for class, I think it's really important. I know we go over this with ropes, but really setting expectations. So people know that you are going to encourage calling on them, making it a safe zone, and just those kind of things. Your expectations of making everybody welcome, and maybe even having to encourage people who don't talk to talk, and those that talk a lot to maybe step back.
Absolutely. It's always that finesse, right? How do you bring more voices into the room? And it's not unheard of that you will not hear from your quiet leaders until maybe 4th, 5th, 8th class before they really feel like they want to bring their voice forward. But it's a finesse on how do you honor a quiet leader but also get them in the room? And then how do you help our louder leaders work on their listening skills? There's actually a quote that I always fall back on when I facilitate about the silence. And, you know, before you speak, I'm not going to remember it all, but before you speak, ask yourself, is it necessary? Is it true? Is it kind? Does it add to the silence in the room? So I don't think I captured it all, but those are always, that's a really good saying to bring forward in a leadership class, especially talking, you know, to maybe get those louder voices quieter or listening. Thanks, Sherry. How about other questions? So I wonder if there is any, you know, requests for future calls with facilitators, a topic area that you would like to share with us that we can bring forward. So we often will partner with different leaders and different state offices to bring further opportunities for growing our knowledge or having a conversation about important topics. And so, thank you. Thanks, Heather. So Heather just pulled up the think before you speak. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? So I wonder if there's any topics, like, you know, one of the things we really heard this year at the training, and we've heard it before at other trainings, is really, you know, giving opportunities for learning around equity and race and white privilege. So we're really working hard to see different ways that we can bring that in. What about, are there any other topics that you would like to suggest for opportunities for exploration?
I just know our participants always come up with grant writing. They want to know how to write grants for funding for projects.
Okay. So Trish just mentioned grant writing as an opportunity for learning about how do you do grant writing? What does that look like? Fundraising. So that's actually a great suggestion, Trish, that it could be something that can give you all as facilitators some grounding if you needed that, but also an opportunity that when we record them, you can share as a outside resource outside of class. So thank you for that, Trish. Any other questions or ideas for future opportunities for learning?
So I was just going to add, Patty, that with the Facebook resource, it is very helpful in getting additional training and stuff. Oftentimes we also have leadership opportunities. So like Board of County Commissioners might come to us and say, hey, we have openings, will you advertise this for us? And sometimes that can help those who are on the fence about knowing how they're going to implement a project or how they're going to engage civically in their community. That's a really great opportunity to just give them ideas to see, oh, hey, this is something that I could do. As well as if you know the interests of the folks that you're working with, and be like, I think you'd be a really great fit for this. That those opportunities do exist and are communicated in that way as well.
Great, thanks, Heather. Well then, if there's not any other questions or topic areas you wanted to explore. Be on the lookout for reminders about upcoming webinars that you have the opportunity to join if you're able to. Thank you so much for all of you who are able to join today. You know, the work you do in community is important, and your role as a facilitator can be a hard one, but it also can be a really rewarding one. So thank you so much for your willingness to be a part of what can be really hard and trying, but also really rewarding. So thank you all. We're excited to see you out in community. We'll send you notes with, you know, the things we talked about tonight, but please reach out if you need us. We're there for you, and we can't wait to hear about all the great work you do in class. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
No,
you.
thanks to you, Patty.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, and
Bye-bye.
see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.